What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1964 Cadillac Ambulance. Up front is a 7-liter V8, and down below is a 3-speed automatic. Woo! Now, I am super excited to be driving this rolling piece of history because it is so cool. It's a Cadillac, it's an ambulance. This is what I like to call a farm-to-table review. This was pulled out of a farm after it sat for years and years and years. The owners got it running, and now I'm driving it. So, plenty of fun and interesting stuff to come out of this video. But if you would like to share your farm-to-table vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zackpriddle.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 7-liter V8 under the hood. Well, it is a fantastically large engine known as the 429 cubic inch V8. Now, this particular engine and transmission were actually pulled out of a 1965. However, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. I just figured I would point it out. It makes about 350 horsepower, which is an absolute necessity when it comes to the size of this vehicle. This thing is every bit of 20 feet long. And when the couple told me that, I told them, well, we're ready to believe you. It's also open header right now, meaning there's no exhaust on it. So that's why I am screaming. Oh, I'll actually give you guys a chance to hear what I'm saying. My God. Down below is a 3-speed automatic. Now, this is not the original transmission that would have came in the ambulance. It is a hydromatic transmission, and it's actually doing the job pretty well. It gets up into 3rd gear pretty quickly, and then you just kind of churn and burn after that. Last but not least about the drivetrain, of course, it is rear-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive a 1964 Cadillac Ambulance? Well, it's incredibly cool. It's incredibly large and incredibly floaty. I mean, this is the era of Cadillacs that everyone wants to go back to. This is the one, plain and simple. The headlights are in a different time zone as the taillights, and that's okay, but you definitely feel that lumbering around. It's not fast, even though it makes over 300 horsepower. It's not fast. It's not agile. It's none of the above, but what it is smooth. Even after sitting for decades, this car is still incredibly smooth, which is really a tip of the cap to those that engineered it. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I do have a single speedometer with some coolant temperature and fuel off to the right. Very old style. Doing so, a sort of slanted, sort of curved speedometer. I also do have my neutral, drive, and gear selector, and the steering wheel is razor thin. This was a big trend in the 1950s and 60s and carried on into the 70s. We saw the 80s steering wheels got to become smaller and thicker, so definitely cool to see here. To the left, I do have my headlight switches and my air conditioning / heating switches. So very interesting that they brought it all the way over to the left, so any passenger has no opportunity to change the temperature. I also do have my windshield wipers, of which there's a separate button for wash, which is kind of funny. Then I do have a climate control vent off to left, and moving on to the door, of course, I have my latch to get in and out, my crank for the smoker's window, and my crank for the regular windows. Moving into the center, I do have an analog clock, which I think is really, really cool. But up above that on the dash, this is what gave away that it was a ambulance in a previous life, and these are all ambulance light controls. So we have siren brake, siren horn, roof light, rear heater, and dome light. Now, these vehicles were also used as hearses back in the day, and they shared a very similar body style. It really just depended on how the vehicle was set up, and so these siren lights really gave away the fact that it was indeed an ambulance. Moving down the dashboard, we do have 2 little climate control vents. I do get a nice badge that says Cadillac. And then the owners have redone the carpet, so this is not farm fresh carpet, this is fresh carpet. Of course, through all of this, there is no cup holder here in the 64 Cadillac Ambulance, so unfortunately, yet predictably, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. The seat that I am currently sitting on is also out of a GMC van, so it is not the original seat for this vehicle. However, speaking of seats, the real cool part is around the back. So let's hop into the back. We'll do a back seat review in an ambulance, and then we'll do also a rear hatch review. Okay, so first of all, coming around to the back, this door does open, and it is an absolute bank vault of a door. I mean, it is heavy, it is large and in charge, and if you got hit with this thing, I don't think you would make it out alive. You'd actually need the ambulance back. So once we are back here, we have 2 jump seats. These were for medical professionals, and then we have these rollers, as you could see, for the actual stretcher that would come in here. So take a step in. Oh, sit down. Wow. I mean, this thing is just the bee's knees. I have to reach out. Did you hear that? Whew. So over here, right here, I actually have heater options for the back space, but sitting here, the seat is not comfortable at all, but it's just so cool. Let me get the camera back here. This is, I mean, so amazing. Here are those heater controls I was talking about. They face this way, so whoever's sitting across from me can operate the heater, but so cool. I love this also, this like starry pattern on the headliner. Very 1960s. You know, at this point in time, we're still looking up to the sky and saying maybe we'll go there someday. By the end of the decade, we did, which is very cool. So soak it in. This is pretty flippin' neat. There we go. Holy cats, that is hard to open. Little handle here. Ugh. Ready? Listen. Jeez. That'll shake it to your core. Coming around the back here, we do have another handle, obviously. Open this up. Again, this door is no lighter than the other one. And like I said, farm fresh to the table. But coming back here, I mean, what a cool view. I mean, just an amazing view. You know, this is where they would load people up for, you know, to help them, to bring them to the hospital. And hopefully more people rode in this that were able to go back to their loved ones than those who didn't. So such a cool piece of American history. This is what took so many people to the hospital. This is what saved probably so many lives, this vehicle. And it's only a brisk 10-minute walk up to the hood, which isn't bad in terms of a 60s Cadillac. Anyway, I'm so enamored by how special this vehicle is and what a cool, unique piece of history it is. Now we got to talk about the looks, and I don't think there's a more iconic ambulance to ever grace this earth. It is tail fin city. It's sculpted, it's styled, it's beautiful. This is an automotive work of art. Even though the rear hatch might be collecting spores, molds, and fungus, this is just such a cool piece of history. And so as we get on to my final thoughts, let's get on to my final thoughts segment. I do want to talk about what the heck this thing was and its cultural significance. So this is a Cadillac ambulance. Yes, the chassis and front end was built by Cadillac, had a Cadillac engine, Cadillac transmission, Cadillac running gear, all of that. But the actual body itself, the ambulance portion, was built by a company called Miller-Meteor. The story of Miller-Meteor is kind of interesting. So there was this big company called the Wayne Corporation, and throughout the 20th century, they ended up buying a lot of coach builders. A coach builder is a company that used to build stagecoaches back in the 1800s, but when cars started coming around, they slowly started to kind of lose their place in the market. Coach builders didn't want to spend the money to actually build a full vehicle with an engine, transmission, differential, and things like that, so they oftentimes stuck to bodywork. Miller-Meteor was a coach builder that built the bodywork of this, and they actually used fiberglass. You could see that towards the back. But the Miller-Meteor company was actually two companies joining together once they were both purchased by the Wayne Corporation. So there was the A.J. Miller Company, which was founded in 1853 as a carriage builder. However, when they couldn't compete with building whole cars, they started building hearses and ambulances. Similarly, another company that the Wayne Corporation purchased was the Meteor Company, which specialized in building limousines in the 20th century. So when the Wayne Corporation bought the A.J. Miller Company and the Meteor Motor Company, they made the Miller-Meteor Company, which built this. Kind of a cool, interesting history. I would love to do a deep dive on coach builders, what happened to them, and how they made cars so special throughout the 20th century, but that's for another video. They did not sell a whole lot of these. These were sort of special order vehicles. You wouldn't walk into your Cadillac dealer and buy a hearse or ambulance. You had to go through a fleet manager or some type of middleman to make that happen. But this car does have a lot of cultural significance. Besides the obvious, this also just goes to show you how far emergency equipment has come. Back in the 50s and 60s, like this vehicle, there weren't really the ambulances that we associate now that are off of either Super Duty chassis or E-Class chassis or whatever it might be. Back in the day, they were actually adapted large sedans or wagons. My theory on this is because there was a huge gap between the pickup trucks that we had and then the giant heavy machinery. There weren't really like F-250s. It was either tiny little pickup trucks or giant heavy machinery vehicles. So there wasn't a good median for the hearses and the ambulances. Now, interestingly enough, I've actually driven more modern Cadillac hearses like this Fleetwood hearse. And still to this day, Cadillac does produce hearses through several different companies. But ambulances have completely switched over to those more heavy-duty chassis, which I just find super interesting. To me, this was so amazing to experience. This is what you would have been picked up in the 1960s if you were in an accident. If you needed medical assistance, this is what came to your rescue. And it's wonderful. Seeing that, being able to drive it, I'm so incredibly thankful that Al and Matt let me take out their 1964 Cadillac ambulance. I mean, what an amazing piece of not only automotive history, but American history, of carriage building history. I mean, how cool is this machine? I'm so thankful to be 106 miles from Chicago with a full tank of gas and a half a pack of cigarettes. That's the wrong one. Scratch that. I'm just so thankful to be driving a vehicle like this. I'm just going to keep blabbering on and on. Huge thank you to Al and Matt for letting me take out their 64 ambulance. They have their own YouTube channel called Wisco Shenanigans. Please go check it out. They're doing a ton of cool things. This vehicle that I'm currently driving is going to be sold, but they also have a 1961 Cadillac hearse that you will see on the channel somewhat around Halloween, and it might be sporting a white paint job and a couple of lights. So please go check them out. They are going to be documenting their build process for that over there, and they have been a huge asset to the channel. I've reviewed tons of their vehicles, and I cannot thank them enough. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.